What's up, everybody? Henry Fernandez here again. I want to talk to you today about the 3 essential life skills, right? These are 3 things that I believe every person must possess and learn to master these 3 areas of your life in order to be successful in your personal relationship with your family, your friends, people, in business, at the workplace. So let's dive right into it. There are 3 words I want to bring to your attention, and I want you to write them down, and maybe have a discussion about it with your friends and so forth. But the first quality that I think you and I must possess, number 1, is good communication skills. We've got to. There are so many people who are sabotaging their progress, their opportunities, because they don't know how to communicate properly. And when I say proper communication skills, people must understand when it comes to communications, or communication, I should say, there are 2 levels to that. Communication has to do with speaking, right? You speak to communicate. It could be in writing, text messages. It could be social media, digital communication. That's wonderful. We speak. We make known our thoughts. That's good communication, right? You got to make sure that in life you make known your thoughts. But then the question is, are you willing to make sure that the communication that you are putting forth is a communication that could be understood? Very important. So let's deal with your own personal life, even in relationship. Let's start there. A lot of times people start out their relationship a bad way because they weren't upfront, they weren't communicating their desires, their wants from day one. It's very important. If you are going to have a healthy relationship as a man, the very first time you meet a woman that you're interested in, I think it's very important that you should decide in your mind if you're going to take the relationship further. At some point in time, you need to sit with that woman and you need to clearly state your intention. That's good communication skills. Here's what I'm looking for. Well, I'm looking for a companion. I want to be married. I have an objective. These are my desires and so forth. This is the kind of woman I'm looking for. These are my expectations, and these are my deal breakers. Clearly communicating. If you're married, it's so important. This is where a lot of couples are failing, is because they don't know how to communicate. They expect their spouse to understand. They expect their spouse to deliver when their spouse have no idea what they're expecting. So your spouse, it's your job to be able to clearly say to your spouse, okay, well, here are my wants. Here are my needs. Here's where I will compromise. Here's where I will not compromise. This is what I'm expecting from you. Same thing with your children. Same thing with siblings and family. Same thing in business. If you're going into business, you have to clearly state what you want. This is why a lot of people end up signing contracts that end up burning them in the end, because sometimes you're so focused on what you want. Let's say you go to buy a car, you go to buy a house, or you go to take out a credit card. You're so focused on the ability to charge your card, to purchase items and so forth, and you fail to read the communication of the lender. The lender is telling you the terms of the contract. And many times we fail to explain the terms of our agreement with people. If you do not communicate properly to people, I'm telling you, you're heading for disaster. And the same thing with women. You know, when a man approaches you and shows interest and so forth, you have to clearly state, don't lead a guy on. You know, many women are doing that. Many women will perhaps have no intention of dating the guy, or no intention of marrying the guy, no intention of really liking him on an intimate level, in the sense that you see him as a potential person that you will marry ultimately one day. Why are you then leading the guy on? Why? You know, if you have zero expectations of this guy becoming your spouse, when he invites you to go to dinner, invites you to a date and so forth, why take it? Why? Now, remember now, if he approaches you and you want to feel it out, you're not sure, that's fine. But I'm talking about when you're absolutely sure, nope, no way am I going to deal with that guy. Right? There's so many women today, what they will do is they'll go on a date with a guy, and their idea is let him pay for the lunch, let him pay for the dinner, let him pay for all of these things, because all I know, I'm just getting him to pay for those things. He has zero chance of dating me. See, that's mixed communication, because you're taking the offer from the gentleman saying, I'll go with you. His expectations and his communications to you, verbally and non-verbally, is he's interested in you. And if there is zero chance of that relationship graduating to a relationship of hope for marriage, then why do it? You have to have proper communication skills, ladies. And even in marriage, ladies, right? You have to clearly state to your husband, you know, this is what I desire. These are my expectations. These are what I will compromise on. These are the things that are non-negotiable. If we could learn to talk to each other, you'll be shocked. Sometimes we think we're talking, but we're yelling, we're screaming. You know, so oftentimes, you know, when couples are at it, one person or both of them will be screaming at each other, yelling at each other, or, here's the crazy thing about it, talking at the same time, because one has to get their point across and so forth, or being interrupted while the other person is speaking. That's not good communication skill. I mean, if you would learn how to, on the job, for example, allow people to dispute their issues, allow people to voice their opinions and to say what they've got to say, but step back for a moment and listen. A part of communication has to do with not only you speaking, but listening. If you don't listen, then the next thing that I'm going to talk to you about, you can't master it. You have to learn to speak. So if your spouse is talking to you, you may disagree and it may be really upsetting to you. Calm down. Let your spouse speak. Once they're finished, then you now have the floor. You speak, and your spouse should not interrupt you, and you should do the same by respecting your spouse, not interrupting your spouse. But so many times, one party starts talking, and then before you know it, the other party has to, kind of respond to every statement that is made. You will never have a healthy conversation like that. Never. You have to learn to speak, state your claim, or sometimes you may have to say to your spouse, please, let me finish. And that spouse has to adhere to that by saying, okay, let you finish because I'll have my time. Right? I have my time. It's like Maxine Waters, said one time, reclaiming my time. A lot of people need to reclaim their time because people are not listening to what they're saying. And I'm telling you, even with family drama, workplace drama, business drama, every situation, church drama, it's a matter of speaking and allow yourself to listen to what the person is saying, how they're responding to you, or the other person should listen to what you're saying. Listening is key. It's a part of communication. We have to listen to each other. That's one of the things that's missing in our world today. We're not listening to each other. We're speaking. Everybody's got to voice their own opinions. They got to say what they got to say. And here's what we say often. We got to get it off our chest. Okay, I understand. You get it off your chest. But at some point in time, somebody has got to listen to what's being said. If not, nobody's going to benefit from the conversation. There won't be any resolution. And there's so many couples who don't have resolution simply because everybody's talking. Everybody's talking. I have to get my point across. Have you been on the phone with someone and they're talking and you can't get a sentence in because they have to get their point across? And unfortunately, I have to say this, if you're a person who honestly can truly assess yourself, because some people, they will never assess themselves, right? But if you truly assess yourself and knowing that maybe that's an area you need to improve on, then you need to do something about it. You need to find a way to calm yourself down and allow someone to speak to you, right? Allow someone to say something to you without you getting all emotionally worked up. Let them speak to you, and then you can respond. And sometimes, too, good communication is also, okay, speaking, listening, but there ought to be a pause. There ought to be a moment to process. I call it to process what's being said. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've made wise decisions simply because I didn't rush into responding. I can't tell you how many times I've diffused toxic situations and environments because I had the ability to listen, okay, and then say, okay, let me think about it. What I'm actually saying, let me process this. And I find in processing things, I'm better able to respond to what's been said, right? So it's very important that you develop communication skills, right? Work towards it. I don't know what level you're at in business. I don't know if you're having a family drama situation. Whatever it is, find a way to work on your communication skills. And remember, it is speaking and listening. Number 2, this is another thing we desperately need in life. If you don't have it, you're going to screw up your life. We need to be able to have understanding. You know, if you don't get understanding, wisdom and knowledge will totally be foreign to you. You hear things, you speak things, but there has to be comprehension. You have to have comprehension. You have to understand. And as it relates to all of what I said before in communicating, whether in dating, in communicating, I should say, with your intentions with people or in marriage, at the workplace, it doesn't matter. You have to have comprehension. You have to find a way to understand what's being said and try to find a way to articulate what you want the other person to hear in an understanding way that they'll have the ability to understand. I mean, have you ever been on the phone or in front of a person and they're saying things to you and you're like, huh? Because what they're saying, it's like, I don't get it. I don't understand what you're saying. And if people don't understand what you're saying, you may be sincere about what you're telling them, but if they don't understand, it's not going anywhere. Even in a relationship, If your spouse is saying things, and your spouse maybe to the best of their ability is trying to articulate what they want to say to you, but you're not understanding it. And it could be that you don't want to understand it, or you're not putting yourself in a position to understand what your spouse is saying to you, right? But if you make the effort to say, okay, the next sentences that I hear for the rest of my life, I'm going to hear it not in a biased way. Sometimes we hear things. Oh, I'm telling you, we are really hurting our opportunities in life. Sometimes we hear things and we process things based on preconceived thoughts and ideas and feelings. It's all about assumptions. So, for example, a young man may step up to you, hey, how you doing? Is everything okay? I've noticed I've seen you standing here by yourself. Do you need any assistance? Okay. Now, I've just said some stuff, but some women would take that immediately, antennas will go off. What do you want? What do you want? I mean, leave me alone. Don't ask me a personal question like that. It's none of your business. All those things. And that person, that gentleman who asked that question or those questions may be honestly sincere. He just wants to find out and make sure he's concerned that you're okay. But with the assumptions that every man is like the one that maybe you opened the door of your heart to, and he abused you and just, lied to you or whatever it may be. Now you're judging every opportunity accordingly because you're not willing to understand what's the motive. What's the motive? I mean, so many times people have, I believe, processed people's motives incorrectly. So many times. You get a phone call. I remember, with my kid, my oldest son, most parents can tell you this. They go to college, and you're concerned about them. And I remember the first month when we dropped him off to college and so forth, I'm telling him, call me every day. Call me every day. I want to know where you're at and all kind of stuff and so forth. And my communication to him, he took it in a way that I'm trying to control him, young people, I can't let you know everywhere I go, all that kind of stuff. And I would tell him, just reach out to me and so forth, because you're going to be here by yourself. And I tried my best to do that. And then he wasn't calling based on my terms, right? And I was really kind of upset about it. And I would call him and say, hey, haven't heard from you. It's been a day. Or the day is ending. We spoke this morning. It's night. What's up? What's going on? And he would have an attitude kind of like, so I assumed, Dad, I've got homework. I'm up and down. I'm trying to do things and I was going to call you and so forth. So now I kind of get defensive and I said, I'm not going to reach out to him and so forth. So a couple of days would go by. And then now he will always call. And every time at that time he would call, it's a need, Dad, I need this, I need that. And then one day he called me and then I just said, hey, so what do you need? What do you need? Because I'm like, this is what I know you need. You need money or you need me to go pick up something or whatever it is. And he let me finish and then he said to me, Dad, no, I just called to say hi. Man. I just called to say hi, right? Now, remember, I feel that I did not properly communicate to my son my concerns, right? I assumed that he should know that he's by himself there, this is a real world, all these things can happen. And it's just a matter of, son, be careful, because if something was to happen, at least know where you are, all these kinds of things and so forth. I just didn't. I'm the father, because a lot of parents are like that. I'm the father. I make the decision. I don't have to explain nothing. Right? Because that's how some of us grew up. That's what's passed down from our parents to us. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we have to have better communication so people can understand. My son didn't really truly understand what I was saying. And then later, of course, I explained it to him. Now we don't have a problem in that area. Because he'll go by a couple of days, and, he talks to his mom more, but when we talk, and so forth. So you have to have an understanding. So many people are expecting people to perform in marriage, in business, expecting people to perform, even in ministry, and there were no explanation of what was expected. The final thing I want to talk to you about is compromise. So we talk about communication and understanding, which is comprehension, and now we're going to talk about compromise. Ladies and gentlemen, you will not have a successful life, one, if you don't know how to communicate properly. Two, if you absolutely don't have full comprehension, understanding, and then compromise. You have to compromise. So many people are hurting in different areas of their lives because they won't compromise. Okay, fine, I understand, sis. I understand. Your standard is up here. I tell people, never lower biblical standards for anybody. I'm not talking about biblical standards. I'm talking about your standards, the standards that you've set. You're saying out of one side of your mouth, you're believing God for a spouse. But your standard is saying you want an angel that is sinless. You want a ready-made man. Someone that you don't have to build a life with, somebody you don't have to work with and help and mentor, and because you want a finished product, right? You don't want to construct nothing. And I get all of that. Maybe you're tired, maybe you're burned, maybe at your age, maybe you've acquired certain things and you're protecting your assets and so forth. And this is where I think we don't have full understanding. Yes, you can protect your assets. Because the assets that you have, for example, let's say you've got, a house, a car, you got a few dollars in the bank. You meet a gentleman. Again, good communication. Once that relationship has gotten to a place where there's an understanding, all right, we feel something for each other. We're going to take it to the honorable position. We're going to get married and so forth. Then as a woman, you can say, with this day and time that we're living in, here's what I have certain things that I'm going to protect. Now, maybe years later, we don't know what God will do. But for right now, especially if you got kids, other than this person, outside of this person, then you have to say, okay, just full understanding. You have no rights to the house. You have no rights to my car. My money that in that account is my money. Can you live with that? Good communication up front. If he then starts arguing, well, why I got to do that? I need to have access to that money too, and so forth. Now, the dude hasn't been married to you yet. Why would he want it? Again, remember, because that shouldn't be the motive. Because if the dude had nothing, if you had nothing, I should say, if you as a woman had nothing, then it wouldn't be an issue, because then you are building, there's nothing at risk, but people are people today. So that's the communication and full understanding. Once he understands that, then what you have to do now, where the compromise comes in, is as the relationship grows, right, even in marriage, you have to say, oh, my standards are here, but you know what? Okay, all right, let me compromise in this here. Let me compromise in this here. Let me compromise in this here. Let me do this. I'll give you a good example of compromise, right? So let's say you're a home person. You don't like to go out. You don't like to travel. You just work, home, church, whatever, right? But this person's an outgoing person. On weekends, they just like to go to the beach, boating, fishing. Maybe they'll go watch a play or something like that. Then both of you have to come to an understanding where you communicate properly, that there's full comprehension and there's compromise. Where, okay, All right. The person likes to go out, may have to say, I have to compromise now that my spouse is not a going out person. So I'll be home with him or her and we hang a lot. But the person who doesn't like to go out will say, no, I have to go out. I have to go with that person. I have to decide that there's certain dates on the calendar. I have to do what that person wants to do. There has to be compromise, right? I mean, if you don't like chicken and that person likes chicken and so forth, right? Don't force the person to eat chicken, right? Let's say you love beef, right? Is there a compromise? Can you tolerate beef? Maybe just eat it for the person's sake. And I know you may say, I ain't eating nothing I don't want to eat. There has to be compromise. Exactly. Right? If you want to buy, let's say you want to buy a Mercedes, but the other person says, I just want to buy a Toyota. Then there's got to be compromise. Well, can we truly afford it? What's the purpose of the car? There has to be compromise, right? Even in arguments, when you're arguing with each other, sometimes you got to compromise. For the sake of us just being at peace, let it go. Compromise is important. If you don't compromise, I'm telling you, if you're always, it's my way or the highway, you're going to ruin something that's good. And there are many relationships that have been ruined because somebody don't want to compromise, or both parties don't want to compromise. So these essential things in life must be put into practice. And I hope today I've helped you, wherever you are in life, examine yourself to see, are there people in your life or areas of your life that you need to, first of all, have good communication skills, better communication skills? Are there areas where you're not having really good comprehension because maybe you're distracted or maybe you're just, it's my way or the highway? Compromise. Are you learning to compromise? Because your life can be so much easier, I should say, when you learn to compromise. I hope I've helped you today. Please put these 3 things in practice and forward this link to someone. Let them listen to the podcast. It may help them. I will see you next time.